Welcome. First up, we have Candace. And yeah, it looks like you got the basics of moving stuff around. Um, make sure you're looking at stuff from all sides. This looks a little misaligned. One good trick to know about is if I want to move this back, I can move it back like that, but if I want to move it back at that angle, I'll double click on the move tool, got the options, and I can switch between object and world. And you'll see when I'm in object, it moves relative to the rotation. Another way to get to that is to hold down the W key and click with the left mouse, and you get this marking menu, and I can switch between object and world right here. For this piece, rather than using the torus, you might try using a pipe. So create polygon primitives, pipe, or even a cylinder would be okay too, but I think just something flatter might look better, and then rotate it to the same angle. So if this is let's rotate it in multiple angles, I guess. Okay. I'll just eyeball it. And I guess the other thing you could work on is maybe, getting a better shape to these sticks. Maybe shrinking down the hat a little bit because it's looking a bit oversized, and these are looking a little big, and maybe getting like more small pieces rather than these really big ones. But yeah, as long as you're getting the basics, that's the point of the assignment. Next up is Alberto. Yeah, it looks like you've got a robot or a couple robots. One thing that it looks like you've done, it looks like you may have combined these surfaces into one, which is something you should avoid doing. So under the polygon menu set, it is possible to go mesh combine, but the only time you're going to use that is if you're combining, for example, two halves into a solid whole, like two sides of a face into one continuous face, but not these sort of separate individual pieces. So I'll separate that, and then you can see all the separate pieces. The other thing is that they're kind of lying flat here, so are they grouped right now? They are in one big group, although I would separate them into one group for each of these characters. Oh, it looks like this guy needs to be separated as well. Oh, it does not want to separate. It looks like maybe you built that by extruding stuff, which is fine, although so yeah, we can rotate this up now. Something like that, get it on the ground. So yeah, you've got the basics. I think that, for something like this, you'd be better off if you were using some reference, like get an image of a robot or a toy robot that you wanted to match, rather than just, moving stuff around, and you'd probably get a better end result. But again, as far as, getting to know the program and moving stuff around, you've done fine. So yeah, that should work well. And I can see that you've made the layer and grouped the objects, which is good. This is Sung Jung is up next. So yeah, this is good. Sort of little box man. Looks like you went above and beyond the assignment by kind of really getting into modeling some shapes into the face. And I can see that you've gone into bending these blocks. So this is certainly beyond just using primitives, although at the same time seems like somewhat in the spirit of the assignment, kind of making something out of simple shapes. But I like that it's thoughtful enough where you can see the sort of the different pieces of the box where the tops are folded over the sides here, and these bottom pieces are bent out. It really feels like it's made out of cardboard boxes, which is a clever design, and it's got sort of a good look, and yeah, and it's even sort of rounded, although that's because you selected and hit 3. If you hit 1, it looks a little sharper, but you can see that for example here he's got what they often call holding edges, which keeps the kind of boxy shape even when you're looking at it smoothed, which is good. And that's what we have up here as well. So these extra edges here, they keep, that's the kind of 1, which is rough. This is 3, which is smooth. And you can see it keeps the box shape even when smoothed, because of those additional edges that have been put in. So yeah, it's a really cute piece. Might think about adding a sort of an elbow and knee joint to it, just to give it a little bit more freedom of motion into the design a bit. But yeah, very cute piece, and like I said, went above and beyond the assignment. Next up is Damien. And yeah, you've got this toy train. I think this is very nice. It's very much in the spirit of the assignment, and it looks like you were paying attention to proportions and scale. Maybe you were looking at some reference, maybe not, but if it feels like you refer to some reference to get, you're thoughtful about the shapes, like the larger wheels and the smaller wheels, which is good. And these different pieces. Obviously you did a little bit beyond just the basic primitives, because you would have had to, looks like this started as a cone, but you've added some detail here, or adjusted the shape a little bit. But for the most part it is indeed made out of primitives, which haven't been doctored. So yeah, I think that's really good. So, yeah, very much the idea of the assignment. You seem to have a good handle on the program, and it was a thoughtful design, so nice work all around. Next up is Vincent, another snowman, and some nice touches here. You went to the extra mile to add some color, which really helps bring it to life. For this hat, you might increase the subdivisions. Might mess it up because you already split in there. Yeah, you'll lose the split by doing that, but that would kind of make it look a little rounder. A little smoother looking. And then you'd have to do that split and coloring over again. And I guess I would say the same for this cone right here. I'm just clicking on the word subdivision access, and then middle mouse drag to get some more detail. Smooth that out. And I think that would go through all these. They all have this sort of very low poly thing going on. And, for these sticks, you might kind of do a little bit more, add some more little pieces to kind of branch those out a bit. Or maybe kind of make them kind of a little crooked so they look more like sticks and less like a cylinder. I like the sort of asymmetry of the hat there. And you could have done that with the spheres too. Like right now they're very perfect and straight, but you could make them a little bit off kilter just to kind of keep it interesting. I can see you've split it up into a few layers and have your group, so that's good. It's named. So yeah, you've got all the basics. I just think add a little bit more detail to the surfaces and the subdivisions, smooth them out, and then add some more pieces to the arms to just get a more interesting shape. Is how you could have taken it to the next level. Some asymmetry, maybe making the buttons imperfect as well. You can just kind of do just little stuff like that, just to make it feel a little more homemade, if you will. Next up is Cindy. And yeah, I mean, you've got a few pieces on here. This is one where, I think you could take it further, having a third sphere, maybe doing the kind of traditional hat and mouth and buttons, and getting more pieces for the stick arms. So, while you've got some basics in there, I think you could go a little further and build this up more. Yeah, you've parented stuff, but I think what would have been better to do is just select the surfaces and do Control G and just put them all in one group. Call that snowman. You'll also notice the wireframe one shaded, which is fine to have on. It's good that you've labeled everything. Let me just unparent this for a moment, because I think I need to separate that out. I'm just saying Shift P to unparent. Oh, I think it wasn't that you had wireframe unshaded, it's just that you had the number 2, which is the kind of the smooth preview thing. So that's why we saw that. If I selected and hit 3, it gets rid of that. And what I would say is, just to simplify this hierarchy, I'll unparent these as well. And I'm just hitting Shift P to unparent. And then I'll just put everything in one big group. I'll middle mouse drag that to there. And now it's all in just one big group with a equal hierarchy there. Okay. So yeah, I think you've got some basics, but you really could have gone further with this and fleshed out the details more. Next up is Brittany, and right from the start, I think it's really great when you're using reference for your models. It's something I highly encourage, and it's nice to see that you've posted the images too, so it's easy for us to compare. Yeah, and I think right away everybody is clear on exactly what this is, and also it is made from the primitives, but it looks like you did do some modeling on top of that to get these more complex shapes. So yeah, it definitely goes above and beyond the assignment requirements, and yeah, real kudos for using some reference and really modeling something specific rather than just doing it from your head entirely. That is a good thing. So yeah, I mean, not too much to go into here, but it looks good and pretty proportional to the design, and yeah, nice thought and detail on this for your first assignment. Okay, next up is Ahmad. So yeah, you've got just a couple surfaces here, and it would be good to see you take this much further. You could, even just working with primitives, you could, for example, I'll make another cube here and scale that down, and something like that could be a door, right? You can make a very simple little door and start adding little details like that. For Windows, I'll just duplicate this. Oops. I'm just going to move this up, and something like this, and you could add some little steps coming up here. I'm just duplicating the door just because it's easy, because it's already pretty much placed in around the right place. So scale that out, and that could be like a little stair step leading up, or even do 2 of those. So Maybe I'll scale out the roof a little bit just to have a little overhang along the edge. And anyways, just starting to add in some details to bring this thing to life. Maybe a little door handle. I'll make this much smaller. Whoops. One good trick to start to get this in position is if I hold down V for point snap and middle mouse drag, it'll snap to the nearest point, which in that case was the corner of the door. Anyways, that just took a couple minutes, and just spending a little bit more time on this, and working very simply, you could start to have something with a little detail. And then again, if you draw from reference, have an image of a house, that will give you ideas of the kinds of details you could add in as well. So yeah, I would have liked to have seen this assignment taken further. It's a little simplistic just to have the two objects one on top of the other, so it'd be better if you could take it further and add some detail. Next up is Tommy. And yeah, that's good. This one definitely goes beyond the assignment requirements, because you can see he's done some modeling on the face, looks like, and you can see some of the history here where he's starting to use extrude, and mostly extrude, and then smooth as well to get some face shape, so that's really good. And you've got the some joints on the arms and those kinds of things. Sort of looks like a robot. I think some hands might help. I mean, when the trick or catch is that you want your detail to be evenly distributed, right? So if this face has some detail and smoothing on it, you kind of want that same level of quality throughout. Otherwise, it looks kind of uneven. So you might want to do some either bevels or smooths on these, maybe add some hands and those kinds of things to kind of move it forward a little bit and give it a more of a consistent finished look throughout. But yeah, clearly you've got the basics of working in the program, so that's good. Next up is Huao. Let me know if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not. And so yeah, Huao is a panda, and yeah, again, got the basics of moving stuff around. I think that I might. Oh, it's good that you're using reference on here already. That's nice. I think I might have gone for some more round shapes for the body as well, rather than this cylinder here. You can make the arms even out of a few spheres as well, but particularly here, you sort of want that rounded kind of panda belly, I think, for the bottom half, and maybe a round object for the chest as well. I think that would, just real quick, what it might look like. I'm just going to duplicate this and move it down, scale it a little bit. And then duplicate another one, move that down and scale it up a bunch. To me that already looks more panda-like. And then I would continue going and add, something for the paws, the hands and feet. For these ears, if I'm going to use a sphere, I'd probably go a little flatter rather than the full sphere, because that has too much volume to it for an ear. Maybe push the eyes in a little bit as well. But yeah, you got the basics of moving around, so that's good. So that's what we got so far for this week. Good work, everybody who got this in. Keep it up. Keep submitting stuff, keep asking questions, and I will see you next time.